Hello everybody, Big Jim here. Kind of doing another update on how far I've got since the last video. But as you can see, I don't know how well, but as you can see, I got this piece taken off. I brazed in my other pipe into the fitting that goes on here. I've taken off the instrument cluster because I'm buying 2 new gauges. I had to buy a new temp gauge. Getting it out of that housing, I ended up destroying it. It wasn't working anyway. Anyway, that's what I'm working on right now. I'm getting ready to make gaskets, and it's a very simple process. I'm just transferring the outline of the piece that needs the gasket, and then I'll show you here in a minute how I go about getting the holes made and all the rest of it. But I also did the lower pipe too. I pulled that fitting off, and we're going to make a new gasket for that too. What I'm doing here is I've ended up, here's my casting with the pipe brazed in, and here's that lower section hookup for on the bottom side of the head. Anyway, I've already laid this down and traced around it. Now I'm getting ready to do this one, the upper water pipe fitting. And it's just as simple as taking a pencil and you give yourself a little bit of leeway. Overhang, I guess, is what you would call it. But anyway, you just go around. Pretty simple stuff. Anybody can do it. But you just mark out your gasket. And then what I've got is a pair of scissors, pretty heavy duty scissors that I use to cut these things out with. This is pretty tedious stuff, really. But it's got to be done. I mean, you could probably go online and get these things for probably, I don't know, anywhere from $5 to $10 a piece. But if you got the material and you know how to make these gaskets, it's going to save you that money and the time it takes to order it, ship it, and before it gets here. So that's what I'm doing, is saving a little time and money. This thing hasn't been messed with. Oh my goodness. It's been years since this thing had been messed with. The gauges, believe it or not, on the white face, and they are original, but like I said, the temperature gauge didn't work. The white face got rust on it. I don't know how the heck that happens, but they're all rusted. Here, I'll show you. This is the original John Deere oil pressure. See all that rust inside there? It's just been on there for so long. It was working, but you couldn't hardly see it. So I've got a new one coming. That and the temp gauge is the same way. We'll finish cutting these out. This way I can trim it up a little easier and get it off the main. Yeah, looking good. one of the things that I like to do, and you can kind of do it with these, is you put the gasket on there and you take a ball-peen hammer, and as you hold that steady where it needs to be, you just tap around. And as you can see, it's cut the hole. Cut the hole perfect. So you put that back over the hole and you do the other one. You don't want to get too crazy, because if it's from the hole to the outside edge, which it's getting close, right here you can see it's starting to crack. But I've got a sharp box knife here that I'm going to use to trim that out so I don't lose that corner there. Now we do the inside the same way. Just take your hammer, and if anything, you don't have to cut it. You just need to get an impression of it, where it's at, and then you can take your box knife and cut it out the rest of the way. See, I've got it. You can see the outline of it. So I'll just take and cut that out by hand instead of trying to beat it out. Most of the time, if you have the time and you got the money and you want to order it, that's fine. This kind of gives you a little bit more hands-on doing stuff, makes you feel more appreciative of the equipment that you're working on, because you put a little bit of elbow grease into it. I always find it's real satisfying to do it yourself, especially when the stuff turns out right. And there's your gasket right there. Lower gasket fits just perfect in there. Trim it up just a little bit, but now I got one done, and that'll work perfect. And what I usually do, clean the surface up really well, and there's this stuff called high tack. Let me grab the bottle right quick so I can show you. It's by Permatex. It comes in a little bottle like that. It's high tack gasket sealant. Put that on there, let it get dry a little bit, and believe it or not, it's like contact cement. You just stick that on there, and that dude will stay there until you take a scraper and try to scrape it off. But for right now, I'm not going to do that. I want to try to get this other gasket made. And this is for the upper water pipe. Trying to get all this done. We're supposed to be getting rain here starting Sunday, which today is Saturday. We're supposed to be getting rain Sunday, Monday, possibly into Tuesday, which my tractor's sitting outside right now. So I get all this done. Now, seeing as how this system is all static pressure, these kind of gaskets, these will work perfectly fine. It if you was having to replace a gasket on a pressurized system of some kind, you might want to look into a different material. This is just basically paper, compressed paper, cardboard, whatever. But it works well. In fact, I take that back. I did tell you it hadn't been messed with for a while. Well, it hadn't. I replaced the, I took the lower, this piece off a long time ago when I first got the tractor. And believe it or not, there was rust galore inside that head. And I cleaned it out. But when I put it back on, I made a gasket out of the file folder stuff, that manila folder looking stuff. And it worked. There wasn't anything wrong with it. In fact, when I took it off, it's still there, or when I took it off this time, it's still there. The only other thing that once I get this cooling system stuff and the gauges taken care of, I might jump into the clutch, working on the clutch, because it doesn't seem like it wants to pop into gear or engage, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it just very possibly I might have to do that. Get that on there as good as you can. Tap where the holes are. Nice and easy. Once you get a little mushroom going, you can cut them out. Yep, I got all 4 of them. So I take my knife and I just trace around the indentation. I've been where I used to work at before. We had what's called a gasket punch set, and it came with different types of, or different sizes of punch, hole punches basically. And you had a little rod that stick down through it, and you stuck that right in the middle of the hole. And then you pulled that out, and then you just hit it, and it would cut that size hole for you. Always thought about getting something like that, but why do it when you can do this? Takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, but it's well worth it in my mind. I see a lot of guys on the YouTube working on their old tractors, older than the one I've got, and doing really well with it. I'm impressed. There are a few places out there where you can still get some parts for your old tractor, which some of them are pretty expensive. I can remember when I first got mine, the radiator leaked, like I said, and it was a 3-row radiator. And I think it was 3 rows of 15, I'm thinking. Well, I had a neighbor that had an old 60 that sat out in his pasture for 100 years, it seemed like. And I went and talked to him. He said, yeah, I could buy it from him. $50. I took it off. Well, before that, I went to John Deere. And yeah, like $450 for just a regular radiator, a 3-row 15-hole radiator core. I thought $50 was a heck of a lot better. And that's the one that's been working ever since in this. Like I said, if I can get this cooling system done and no leaks, I'm going to put antifreeze in it. I don't know if there's any special kind or anything like that, but that's what I'm going to try to do. Because see, those things was designed to put water in them and drain them when you get done with them, as far as I know. There could have been some antifreeze or glycol back in the day when those things was first made that they recommended. So we'll see. All right, now we got to do the middle. Just like I said, all you got to do is just tap a little bit. Holes are all lining up good. Do half at a time. And there's the mark. Give me a little bit more on that other end here. Some of these are kind of not very sharp, and they don't leave a good impression because they've rusted, the edge has. But I should be able to get through this. And I'm going to try a little bit more. Got it that time. Trim it out. I know for a fact this gasket right here on a couple of different spots were at least $10, and that's not including shipping. So with that being said, y'all want to try to save money, then all right, let's see how well I did here. Let's go through this again. All right, there's gasket number 2. Let's see if it goes better that way. Yep, goes better that way. So, there you go. Made gaskets for those 2 parts. Old tractors, they were meant to be worked on. The farmer had to have a skill set. You couldn't just take your tractor to the mechanic. You had to pull it in the barn. You had to work it, tear it down, whatever. You know, I put new tires on this thing with the right tools. It was pretty simple. And I could see where, you know, back in the day when these things were fresh, these engines were fresh on these tractors, you know, they took care of them. They know. Anyway, that's going to be it for right now. The next thing I'm going to do is clean these things up, paint them John Deere green, and then start installing, and that'll be a different video. And like I always say, outdoors is where the fun begins. So get out when you can. Have a nice day.